2 murder investigations from the case files of Lieutenant Joe Kenda. First, police must solve a murder.
We're on the way.
Without getting killed themselves.
The officer jumped into action, stood out in the middle of the street.
The driver continues to advance toward him.
Stop the car! Stop now!
Then, 2 men are shot, and Kenda must figure out which was the aggressor.
Mr. Pitts has 2 in his stomach, and Mr. Doe has 1 in his head.
I ain't pulling no trigger.
It's a rarity with someone who comes out and just tells us the whole thing.
I'm telling the truth.
He knows he's lying. I know he's lying. When people get into arguments, it simmers for an extended period of time. The bad blood remains, and it comes to a boil, and when it boils over, somebody's going to die. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
It was a warm, sunny day in Colorado Springs, and Anthony Hayes, the Fort Carson medic, was returning home with some groceries. And he heard some guys arguing behind him.
I got bills to pay, man. My rent's due. I'm telling you right now, if you don't pay me today, I'm gonna have to release you.
He hears a shot and sees one of the men is now laying on the ground.
He grabs his medic bag and launches into action.
Hang on, man. There's an ambulance on the way. Hang on, hang on!
A short time later, Sergeant Kenda and Detective John Anderson arrive at the scene.
The scene had been cordoned off. The victim had already been transported to the hospital by the paramedics.
Hey, Mac. So what do we got?
The victim is a 27-year-old male. He's in critical condition.
The victim is a Darrell Davis. He has a close-range gunshot wound to the central chest, and the EMTs who treated him reported that it was unlikely he would survive.
Any witnesses?
Just one. It's over there.
I didn't see any casings on the ground. Did our guys already pick them up?
No, sir. We didn't see any when we arrived on scene.
Most pistols eject expended casings unless the shooter has a revolver and the casings are contained within the weapon, or he picks up his expended casings because he knows they're evidence.
Let's get a couple of guys to look around for a casing or two. Want to talk to the witness?
Sure. Thanks.
The witness says he looks across the street and sees a person fall from being hit with gunfire.
I'm a medic. Thought I could help him, but there wasn't much I could do.
So you didn't see the shooter?
No, but I did see his truck. It was a red truck and it had bumper stickers on the back, but I couldn't read them.
He didn't see a license plate. He didn't know if there was more than one person in the truck. He just knows it fled immediately after the shot was fired.
If you think of anything else, you'd let us know?
Yes.
Thanks.
Excuse me, detectives. Have an update on the victim?
EMTs have reported back that the victim was dead on arrival at the hospital.
Do we have a home address?
Yeah, medical got it from the license in his wallet.
Okay, hold on the scene. We'll be back.
Yes, sir.
So we, of course, wish to notify the next of kin. We determined that he does have a wife who lives in the area, and we respond to that location and inform her of the death of her husband.
Man, we're from the Colorado Springs Police Department. I'm afraid that's some very bad news. Your husband was shot and killed.
Darrell?
I'm very sorry.
Wait for a recovery period to take place and then interview her about her knowledge of her husband's activities.
Mind answering a few questions for us?
I'll try.
We wanted to find out when the last time she saw him, what the circumstances were. She said he came home early from work at about 2:30 in the afternoon, very upset, very agitated, said he'd quit his work.
He kept going on and on and on about getting screwed.
Yeah, on time every damn day. $128, babe? It's not fair, man.
Darrell, calm down, okay? Before you give yourself a heart attack.
I'm tired of this. Asking me to be patient? Is the landlord gonna be patient with us when it's time to pay rent?
What kind of work did he do?
He was in construction. He was on a job for about a week as a subcontractor.
One of the dangers of working as a subcontractor as opposed to a salaried worker is that sometimes you can get shortchanged. They might refuse to pay you.
But obviously he left at some point.
Yeah. He said he was going to go look for Ken, his boss on his job.
I'm not standing for that.
Darrell is Ken. You know he's going to pay you.
Yeah, he's paying me today.
And that was the last time I saw him.
You said his boss's name was Ken?
Yeah, Ken Muriel.
I realized I know Kenneth Muriel. He had been a confidential informant for me in the past.
She said they're very good friends. They're almost like brothers. Ken needed some extra hands on a job, and Darrell was happy to help out.
Can you think of anyone else you might have had problems with? Neighbor, coworker, relative?
No, not Darrell. He got along with pretty much everybody.
She explained that he was very happy-go-lucky. He had no enemies.
All right, Miss Davis, there's no need to get up. We'll let ourselves out. Again, we're very sorry for your loss.
I think I know Ken.
You do?
Used to be an old CI of mine.
Confidential informants, referred to as CIs in police work, especially in investigations, is really a complex challenge. Most of the time, the suspects are involved in criminal activity themselves. A lot of times they're trying to trade their bad acts or criminal charges for leniency on a crime, and so they're ratting out somebody else. In a drug case in particular, you have to be very cautious because they may be ratting on their competition so that they can move into that area. So you have to be very guarded that whatever information that you're being given by a CI, that you're using some other source to confirm that. In this case with Kenneth Muriel, what he had given me was information on another murder.
The detectives take the opportunity to do a little background searching on this guy. They call the Milwaukee Police Department, where he's from, and turns out Ken does have violent tendencies. However, he's never hurt anybody.
Now, he's never assaulted anyone, and he's never shot anyone, but he commonly makes violent threats against people, and they call the police.
From Adam Victor Charles,
And the radio is very busy, and something's going on at the crime scene.
The Sergeant Kenda, we're on the way.
Back at the crime scene, officers were continuing to gather any evidence they could. As they were doing this, an interesting thing happened.
So, black male?
I'm not sure. Didn't see him.
Red truck?
Yes.
Like that one?
I'm not sure, but it sure does look like it.
You not sure? Sit back.
The officer jumped into action, stood out in the middle of the street, pulled his gun.
Stop! Stop the car!
The driver continues to advance toward him. The officer is thinking, is it time to shoot him?
Stop the car! Stop now!
We're investigating the death of 27-year-old Darrell Davis, and we've been told by witnesses that a red pickup truck fled the area immediately after the shop was fired. Now, the same red pickup has returned to the crime scene. The officer steps into the street and pulls his weapon, points it directly at the truck. No instruction is ever given to a police officer in training to shoot at the tires of a vehicle. It doesn't do anything. It puts a hole in the tire, and eventually it goes flat some distance away. It doesn't do what it does in the movies. They don't blow out. They just leak air. The use of deadly force is authorized for a police officer when he feels an imminent danger of death or serious bodily injury. The weapon in this case is not a gun, it's not a knife, it's a red pickup truck.
Stop the car! Stop now! Hands! Hands! Show me your hands! behind your back. Do it now.
It's a felony arrest of an individual who is thought to be armed.
Is he dead?
He said, "Is he dead?" as a question. The officer didn't reply to it.
Well, you guys have sure been busy since we've been gone.
Yeah, roger that. Let's get a search warrant going for the truck. Get it towed back to the impound.
Yes, sir.
We're going to search this truck by warrant, but we can certainly see what's in plain view, either in the cab or in the bed of the truck, and we look at it before we do anything else.
There's two things that really get our attention. One is a box of ammunition. The other is a spent shell casing that's on the floorboard.
Hey, Joe, come back here. Take a look at this.
We look at the back of this truck, and there is a personal license frame that says protected by guns.
There's also a bumper sticker that says, "I'm a Vietnam veteran." So what this is telling us is a little bit about this suspect.
People display things that speak to their personality. He doesn't have flowers on his tailgate. You take people for what they say they are. This guy says he's a gun guy, and he's used guns before.
Okay. Take him away.
You got it.
We have probable cause to arrest. We're going to take him down to our office and talk to him there.
Sure you want me in there with him?
I didn't know if Joe was going to think that was a conflict of interest for me to be the detective doing the interrogation.
Well, as long as there's no special treatment, it shouldn't be a problem. In fact, maybe it's best if we talk to him alone.
All right, then.
There's a relationship here that already exists. You don't have to establish one in an interrogation. So Anderson talks to him alone.
Hey, Ken.
Anderson, how you been?
I've been well. Before we get started, let me ask you something. You been drinking?
He definitely smelled like alcohol. He wasn't, drunk in a stupor falling down.
Yesterday was my birthday and I tied one on. Maybe that's what you're smelling.
In my mind, there wasn't any concern about him being under the influence of alcohol where he couldn't understand what was going on.
Look, Ken. Did you do this? Did you shoot him?
John Anderson hits him cold. And his response is, well, it was self-defense. It's not a denial, it's an admission. So we have the right guy.
What happened leading up to the shooting?
I don't know. Day started off fine aside from a little hungover. I didn't get out the house until late.
He says he takes his two sons to the babysitter, and it's around 2:30 in the afternoon. He still decides he's going to go to work.
I left the babysitter and started walking back to my truck. And there's Darrell, waiting for me.
Hey, Ken!
Darrell, what are you doing here?
Ken says he doesn't know how Darrell Davis knew where he was, but nonetheless, there he is.
The $128, I need it now.
Look, I already told you before, Darrell. I don't have your money yet.
Ken explained that he wouldn't have the money to pay anyone until the job is completed.
When I get paid in 2 weeks, you'll get your money.
That's not gonna cut it, man. I did the job, so I need to get paid. Look, I got bills to pay, man. My rent's due. Ken, I'm telling you right now, if you don't pay me today, I'm gonna have a real issue with you.
Screw you, Darrell. I tried to get away from him, but the guy was just relentless.
You want me to beat your ass out here? I'm not playing around.
Don't you dare threaten me. You'll get paid when I have the money.
You ain't going nowhere, Ken. We ain't done here.
We're done because I'm saying we're done. You hear me, boy?
Boy, I ain't your boy.
The use of the word boy really upset Davis.
Look at the truck, bitch. Come on, fight me like a man. I'm not playing around with you. Come on, I'll show you who the boss is. Come on. What are you scared of, Ken? Get out the truck.
When Darrell did that, I lost it.
At this point in the interview, Ken stops telling a story, just pauses, and says, I didn't want to hurt anybody. I definitely didn't want to kill anybody.
It's because of the war, man. Darrell was making threats and it just set me off.
Ken explained that he kind of went into a defensive mode and that he had flashbacks to when he was in Vietnam.
Come on, Ken. I'm not playing around. Come on. Fight me like a man. What are you scared of?
Ken said he felt very threatened.
Get out the truck! I said get the hell away from me!
He shot Darrell Davis once in the central chest from inside the truck, which explains why that expanded casing is on the floor of the driver's side.
Ken explained was scared. He went back home. He hid the gun. He changed his clothes. So that shows a presence of mind. It shows conscious thought right after the shooting of this victim.
Ken also insists he never intended to run down police upon returning to the scene.
I came back to see if Darrell was all right. That's when you guys got me. But I swear, I did not want to kill him. I just think I'm going to be sick.
Hey, wait a minute. Oh.
He's so upset and so shaking that he's physically ill.
He vomited. He was that upset about the circumstances.
He is someone who's out of his emotional control.
Mom.
He responds to things in a violent way, but he's never committed a violent act. Why did that change now? In the other events in Milwaukee, it was a momentary confrontation and it broke. It ended. In this circumstance, Davis won't let it alone. Perhaps it's the prolonged nature of it that made him snap, but I suspect that's what was going on.
Anderson, can you do me a favor?
What's that, Ken?
Can you just shoot me? Right here and right now. I don't think I can live with this.
When he makes that statement, it's obvious to me that he knows he's really messed up, that his life's forever changed. I knew that once we got to the county jail, we were going to need to put him under a suicide watch.
I think truly repentant in his own way for what has happened. That's a very strong statement, and he appeared to be quite sincere. That he wanted John to do precisely that, which of course isn't going to happen, but that's what he wanted.
I think it's also important to consider, detectives have a tough job, but this is a human being. And it's also someone that Detective Anderson had worked with for a while as a criminal informant, so he knew this guy. And to actually see him in the situation had to have made him, just feel a little bit sorry for him.
Later that day, police execute a search warrant for Ken Muriel's home.
And we discover the sawed-off weapon between the mattress and box spring. We then submit that weapon to the Colorado Springs Police Department laboratory, and they confirm through ballistic comparison that that is the murder weapon.
Ken is charged with second-degree murder, including a crime of violence. He pleads innocent by reason of insanity, and the jury bought the story. They eventually acquit him of the crime. However, the judge didn't let him off scot-free.
It was decided that Ken Muriel would be ordered to the Colorado State Mental Hospital for a period of 12 years.
Mr. Muriel has serious mental health problems. When agitated, he responds violently. Mr. Davis had no way of knowing that and certainly didn't deserve to die for it. But that was the end result. Are we going to treat Mr. Muriel as a criminal or as a victim? He's actually both.
Coming up, a hallway shooting produces multiple bodies and countless questions. But who really pulled the trigger?
They're not friends, they are enemies.
You're gonna have to get up off my block.
Ain't much to say. You can tell when somebody's lying to you, and this guy was lying. It's chilly February evening.
It's whatever you want, babe. I just want to make this day special for you.
Godfrey Freeman is in his apartment talking to his girlfriend, trying to decide what they're going to do for Valentine's Day.
Well, if you still want to do the Cliff House, I mean, that means we got to make reservations in the next... What the hell?
What was that?
Babe, I think I just heard gunshots. It sounded like it was right.
And before he can do anything, he hears another louder bang. He tells his girlfriend to hold on, starts to look out.
Will you bring me that salad bowl?
Sure.
Thanks.
It was 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night. I'm home with my wife.
I wonder who that could be.
You know damn well who it is.
It's Kenda.
It's the Police Department Communications Center. We have officers on scene of a fatal shooting. Okay, we're coming. Thank you.
Well, be safe, honey.
I will. Love you. Hey, Jill. Hey, Ted.
That particular part of town, the southeastern part of the city, tended to have a high level of violent activity, a high level of gang activity. So we weren't surprised when we got a call to that address that there was a shooting.
So what do we got?
Looks like there was a shootout in the hallway of the apartment building.
There were two victims. One was a 19-year-old Cameron Pitts, shot twice in the stomach. The second party is an unknown black male shot in the back of the head.
Both of our victims were transported to the hospital. Our John Doe that was shot to the head, he looked like he's gonna make it. Our other guy that was shot to the stomach, not sure about him.
At the scene, we don't have the victim's clothes, which tells us both parties were in serious condition. It was kind of a scoop and run. The ambulance crew gets in there, pick them up, and get them to the hospital. A lot of times they'll try to stabilize the victim. These guys were probably bad enough to where they felt they needed to get him to the hospital as soon as possible.
Let us know if you hear anything.
All right.
Let's take a look.
So there are two blood stains in the hallway, one near the end of the hallway where the John Doe was discovered with a gunshot wound to the head, and one in the center of the hallway a few feet away where Mr. Pitts was discovered.
9mm? Yep.
There was also a 9mm handgun recovered on the scene, and officers tell us that it was near the hand of the John Doe.
There are 3 expended 9mm casings on the floor. So we have 3 shots fired in the hallway. Mr. Pitts has 2 in his stomach, and Mr. Doe has 1 in his head. Perhaps 2 people get in a confrontation for some reason, and the result of it is gunfire. And somehow or other, both of these people get shot with the same gun.
Did you guys talk to the neighbors?
We've started. We're still making our way through the building.
Let me guess, no one's talking.
Correct.
It's kind of place where gang activity is very common. And so a lot of the people in that area, they don't come forward with information because the last thing you want to be is a snitch, especially if gang members are involved. You're in fear of your family. Maybe you don't trust police. So you don't like the police kind of coming into your business.
This is an area that's predominantly gangbangers. And talking to the cops is not something gangbangers want to do. And people that aren't involved with gang members but stuck in those neighborhoods that gangs have taken over are very reluctant to talk to officers also.
People are fearful if they say anything. They'll be viewed as an informant and then at physical risk from all these other people. This is the lowest form of life in the mind's eye of people that live in a neighborhood like this.
All right, well, that's no reason to quit. Let's keep talking to people.
Okay, sounds good.
It's a subculture that most people never encounter, so it makes it extremely difficult to get useful information out of anyone. And you say to them, do you know this person? No, I don't know them. He's your brother. Do you remember that? That's how bad it is.
We're investigating an altercation we had here tonight. Did you happen to hear or see anything?
Nah, I don't know.
Did you happen to see anything or see anyone running or anything like that?
I just don't want to be involved.
Most of the neighborhood was very reluctant to talk to us, but we did find one individual identified by the name of Fitz Bannister.
Excuse me, you live here?
Yeah.
Were you around when the shooting took place this evening?
Yeah, I heard the shots. It was around like 8:30. It was actually right outside my apartment.
He says he looks out the door and he sees two black guys laying on the floor, bleeding.
That's when I seen two white guys running.
Can you describe them?
Yeah, one of them was wearing all green, and the other white guy was wearing a gray baseball cap.
Green was not a big gang color back then, and seeing a white guy dressed all in green would be a little unusual.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
We're going to take what he says with some grain of salt, but we're also going to put out all points to the cars in the area. Two white males, one wearing a gray baseball hat, one all dressed in green. You see them, stop them, identify them.
As patrol officers continue their canvass, detectives check on the status of the shooting victims.
Mr. Pitts has 2 rounds lodged in his stomach, but we're confident he'll pull through.
What about our John Doe?
I'm afraid he's essentially brain dead. It's just a matter of time, unfortunately. Have you been able to identify the victim?
Not yet, we're working on it.
Who is he and how is he connected to Cameron Pitts? We can't find that out until we identify who this person is.
Are the victim's clothes available?
They're right over here.
When you arrive in a hospital with traumatic injury, the first thing the nurses are going to do is cut your clothes off. Cut them off. The pants, they're going to shred the shirt. They're going to run a pair of scissors right up the top of your legs all the way up to the top and open the jeans or the pants or whatever. Cut the underwear off until you are naked. They retain that clothing in a pile with a name on it. You know, these are clothing from so-and-so.
Those are from Mr. Pitts, and those are from the John Doe.
We look at these 2 piles of clothing, and the clothing worn by Cameron Pitts is all red in color, and the clothing worn by Mr. John Doe is all blue.
Red and blue. Smells like a Crips and Bloods thing.
Sure does.
At this time in Colorado Springs, there were 2 predominant gangs, the Crips and the Bloods. Crips usually identified by wearing blue, Bloods usually identified by wearing red. And you didn't wear the other person's color. That was a big part of the problem back then.
So now we know that this is a Crip and Blood affair, and they're not friends, they are enemies. And the clothing says that loud and clear.
Apparently the witness we spoke to wasn't telling us the truth.
Looks that way.
So my concern about Fitz Bannister's story has now come full circle. There is a Crip and a Blood and maybe somebody else, but it's not 2 white guys.
Kenda suspects the 2 victims struggled over a gun and both got shot. But which man pulled the weapon first?
Right now, I think the smart thing to do is get a GSR test on both our victims.
Absolutely.
We always perform gun residue tests on everyone involved in a shooting, including the victims, to determine if they fired a weapon in the recent past.
Well, Mr. Pitts is being prepped for surgery, but I can take you to the victim.
Thank you.
While surgeons are patching up Cameron Pitts' abdomen, police focus on the unidentified victim.
Looks like this guy got roughed up pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
This person with the gunshot wound to the head is thought to be at death's door. He has blunt trauma to the face. He's been punched by somebody recently and very hard.
Hey, detectives.
We should reach out to the coroner. We need an autopsy on this guy as soon as he passes.
Yeah, I'll make sure he's notified.
And we should also snap a couple pictures of him. Maybe one of the guys in our gang will recognize him.
Good idea. Doc, do you mind?
No, go ahead.
Let's make sure that happens as well.
Yes, sir.
People are telling a story with their tattoos. A very common one you see on convicts is born to lose. Well, no kidding. It's all about self-identification, love and hate on the knuckles of convicts. Gang people do the same thing. They tattoo themselves to show their loyalty to the gang. So we have gang specialists on the police department who spend their time identifying these members, talking with them, in contact with them all the time to try to keep track of what gang group they belong to.
Recognize this guy?
Yeah, I think I know him. He's a Crip. Goes by the street name Baby Lock. His real name is Eddie Jones. I recognize the tattoos. It's definitely him.
We asked, does he carry a gun? And the gang officer says, that son of a bitch always has a gun.
Any idea what type of gun he prefers?
Every time I talk to him, he's got a 9mm.
Well, guess what's in that hallway? The 9mm handgun. This is getting more interesting by the minute. We're investigating a shooting involving a 19-year-old named Cameron Pitts, who's a blood affiliate, who's in surgery. And we also have Mr. Eddie Jones, who is a known Crip, and Eddie is no longer with us.
Based on our victim's records, we were able to identify that he has a mother who lives in Georgia.
Hello?
Miss Jones?
In this particular case, we have to notify her by phone, which is very hard to do. It's kind of a gut-wrenching thing to have to sit there and tell somebody that their son is dead.
I'm very sorry for your loss.
It's like every parent's nightmare, talking to somebody you don't even know, telling you this horrible news about your son.
As soon as Eddie Jones submits to his injuries, Cameron Pitts overcomes his.
Now it's our chance to go talk to him. We know he was there. He's the one person who should be able to tell us exactly what happened.
But that's easier said than done.
It ain't much to say. I mean, me and Eddie, we exchanged a few words the other day, playing ball. Seen each other last night. Things got out of control.
Cameron, please stop. Just stop, all right? You're a blood. He's a Crip. You hate each other. Don't bore me with a basketball story.
You need to tell us what happened. Now. Because we're not leaving until we figure this out.
All right, look, man. We've been beefing for a while now.
He says, well, some time ago, he was near the bus station downtown.
Oh, hell. You know, it's that bubble gum.
All right, man, I'm gonna trust you.
Yo, son. You're gonna have to get up off my block.
And Eddie Jones pulled up in a car and started yelling at him.
Man, what? Dude, you tripping. Move along.
And it's gang posturing back and forth about who hates who and so on.
You were red on my block. You're gonna have to step.
Then what's up? Oh, it's like that?
Damn right it is.
All right. I'ma see you.
For sure.
I left, and that was it. I ain't seen him since. Till last night.
What happened last night?
I was at my homeboy's apartment. Stepped out to have a smoke. That's when I seen Eddie.
Cameron says, I had no idea he was there. He had no idea I was there.
Oh, it's this bitch again. I thought I told you to watch yourself.
Man, what the hell?
These my streets.
What's up?
Cameron says that Eddie immediately comes up to him and punches him in the face.
In the course of that fight, Eddie Jones pulls a gun out of his waistband and shoots Cameron twice in the stomach.
Well, man, I was just trying to get the gun away from him, because I was worried he's gonna shoot me again. While we was fighting, the thing just went off.
So you shot him with his own gun?
No, I ain't pulling no trigger. Just went off.
Cameron is very vague about how this transpired and is obviously, in my opinion, lying about what happened here.
So you're saying you got cold cocked in the face?
Yeah.
Okay. So how come there aren't any injuries on your face?
No reddening of the skin, no swelling, no indication he's been punched by anybody.
Man, I don't know. Dude don't pack that much of a punch.
Right.
And Cameron's just looking at me because he knows he's lying. I know he's lying, but here we are. He's the victim and he's still lying.
Tina?
Can I have your hand?
What the hell are you doing?
We're gonna find out if you pulled the trigger on that gun or not.
Not telling him the whole truth about a gunshot residue test. Because the reality is, if he's within close contact of a gun at the time it's discharged, he's gonna have this stuff on his hands.
Can I have your other hand?
But we want him to think that it's going to prove that he fired the weapon. Put a little pressure on him, hopefully get a better statement out of him.
So what happens now?
So what happens now is we're gonna take those swabs to the lab. We'll have the results soon enough. Then we're gonna swing back around and visit you. Sound good?
I ain't pulling no trigger, so I don't matter.
We'll see about that.
The imagination of humans will race when you tell them something. You see the wheels begin to turn. And just leave them with that thought and let them agonize. And when they agonize, they suffer from diarrhea of the mouth the next time you talk to them.
While Cameron Pitts is left to stew, Kenda checks in on the autopsy of Eddie Jones.
Hey, man. What'd you find, Dad? We'll take a look at this entry wound.
The autopsy tells us something really significant. The gunshot wound that kills Eddie Jones is to the back of his head. It is at a range of 1 to 2 inches away. It's an execution shot. It's not an accidental upward moving bullet from a struggling gun. Somebody shoots Eddie in the back of the head clean as he's turned away from the gun. 1 to 2 inches. Now, the gun recovered at the scene is tested by the police laboratory with the recovered bullets from Cameron's stomach and the bullet from Mr. Jones's head and the 3 casings found in the hallway, and they all came from that gun. So that weapon is the one that shot Cameron Pitts twice and also shot Eddie Jones in the back of the head. The difference is it would be absolutely, utterly, physically impossible for Eddie Jones to shoot himself in the head in that manner, and it's absolutely physically impossible for a struggle over a gun to cause that wound to occur.
I think we need to talk to Mr. Pitts again.
Oh, yeah. All right, thanks, Doc.
So Cameron Pitts is lying, and he is suspect number 1 in the murder of Eddie Jones.
Hi, Cameron. We're back.
Didn't take long, did it?
You're very confident when you go back to see Cameron because you know a lot more than you knew when you last time you talked to him. So we're going to screw with him.
We got some test results back.
We don't think you're gonna like what we found out.
Now, when you're a patient in a hospital, particularly with a gunshot wound to the stomach, they've got you hooked up to monitors. Your fingers are connected for your skin temperature and your heart rate and so on and so on. Part of the technique applied in a polygraph is the same thing.
Kind of like a poor man's lie detector test for us. It works to our advantage. And he's starting to feel a little bit more pressure when his own heart's starting to give him away. He gives us a little bit more information.
I'm gonna be honest, Cam. I think you're lying through your teeth.
I say, of all the stories I've heard in a long time, it's not the worst one, but it's in the top 5. And I look at that heart monitor, his heart's going like a piston because he's scared to death.
Now, you need to tell us the truth right here, right now.
Otherwise, you're going down for a murder rap, you understand?
And a heart rate's going to 160. That's pretty serious. I said, Cameron, your heart's about to jump out of your chest. You notice that? And why do you think that is?
All right, look, man. What I told you about the struggle with the gun, that was true. But
what?
But there was another guy there. He had his hands on the gun, too. He the one shot Eddie.
What's his name?
It's my homeboy. Fitz. Fitz Bannister.
Fitz Bannister. Now, where have we heard that name before? Mr. Eyewitness, who sees the bad guys run away. Well, thank you, Cameron. That's going to be very helpful. We're investigating a shooting which has turned out to be a gang confrontation between 2 individuals, but now we're in a position to know that there was a 3rd person in the hallway when that shooting took place, and we know who that is.
Have a seat, Mr. Bannister. Remember us?
Yes, sir.
We have something that's to our advantage. Fitz Bannister doesn't have a record. He has no experience with the police. He's frightened, and that's a good thing.
So, Fitz, those 2 white guys you said you saw running away, we know that was a lie.
I said, we just talked to Cameron, and he said some really interesting things about you. He said you were there, and you were fighting over that gun.
Wait, what?
So you ready to start telling us the truth?
Okay, look, I saw what happened. Cameron came over to chill.
He says Cameron went out to smoke a cigarette. A little bit later, he heard a knock on the door. He's thinking, oh, well, Cameron locked himself out. And it's this 12-year-old kid.
Is my friend Marlon here?
No, it's no Marlon that lives here. You got the wrong place.
So who's the kid?
I don't know his name. I guess he just stay there or something, because I see him there all the time.
What's up then, little bitch?
Fitz says he's talking to this kid, and he hears arguing in the hall. He says he sees Eddie Jones punch Cameron in the face. Fitz says that when he goes to break up the fight, Eddie pulls a gun out of his waistband and shoots Cameron twice in the stomach. Fitz says the gun goes off and Eddie Jones falls down.
Really, Fitz? You expect us to believe that?
We saw Cameron. He didn't have any marks on his face.
Man, I swear to God, I didn't shoot nobody. God, I didn't shoot nobody, okay?
He put his head down on the table like he was crying. Then he suddenly looked up at me to see what my reaction was, and there are no tears in his eyes. He goes back to simulating crying again. I said, Fitz, when you apply for an Oscar, people review your performance. I gotta tell you, you're not gonna get an Oscar.
Nice try, Fitz.
Will you stop being a little kid for a few minutes? Because I'm gonna treat you like an adult. I'm gonna put you in adult prison with other adults that you're not gonna like at all.
I'm telling the truth.
It's all crap. We know it's crap. Any detective been on or any officer has been on more than a year, he's seen these bogus statements and bogus crying from individuals, so we're not buying it.
Hey, admit you're with the Bloods, just like your boy Cameron.
I'm not. Look, man, I hang out with those guys sometimes, but I'm not no gangbanger. I told you I was there, and I had my hand on the gun, but...
Keep going.
Nothing, man. I want my lawyer.
That's probably a good idea, Fitz, because you're gonna need one.
Go ahead and cuff him, get him out of here.
Stand up.
I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing.
Now we're in a situation where I don't really have anything that says if it's Fitz that did it or if it's Cameron who did it. You can still move after you've been shot in the stomach. It hurts, but if you can hold up under the pain, you can still move around quite a bit. So we're sitting there trying to think what to do now. What's gonna resolve this? The players aren't gonna resolve it. So we go back through this report. It's always best to start over. You just start over.
Hey, here's something. One of the patrol officers spoke with a 12-year-old kid named Stephen Lane at the apartment complex.
Didn't Fitz say something about a kid being at his door right before the shooting?
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't look like they got much. His mom cut the interview off. Probably afraid of gang retribution. But it might be worth another shot with this kid.
A good call. I'll head over there now. Let me know if you find out anything else.
Sounds good.
So we knock on the door, and Mrs. Lane doesn't seem surprised to see us.
Yeah, I thought you might be back. Steven, someone's here to see you.
Hi, Steven, I'm Joe.
We have to get his trust, make him feel very comfortable around us.
So grade again.
7.
You sit down with him so you're the same height. You don't want to be standing over a 12-year-old kid, looming over him in some threatening manner.
You play any sports?
Yeah, basketball.
You want to just let him settle a little bit and find out about him. And you can see it in his body language, that he's relaxing.
Buddy, the reason I'm here is that something bad happened in the complex the other night. And your mom thinks you might know something about it.
Yeah, I was in the hallway.
Can you tell me what you saw?
Yeah, I went to go see my friend. I thought he lived on the 3rd floor, but there was this guy out there.
He sees a guy all dressed in red, smoking a cigarette in the hallway.
While I was standing there, this dude dressed in blue came down the hallway.
Oh, is this bitch again?
Man, what the hell?
And the two of them started yelling at each other.
Now you in my home? What's up then?
Oh, then what's up?
Do something, bitch.
Stephen says that Cameron initiates it by assaulting Eddie in the mouth, which the autopsy supports. So that's probably true.
And then the third guy comes in the apartment to help.
Stephen tells us that he sees Eddie shoot Cameron twice. Fitz immediately joins in on the fight.
Fitz and Eddie are still fighting over the gun, and Fitz gets control of it and takes it away from Eddie. Eddie turns to head for the staircase, and Fitz shoots him in the head. And then Fitz tries to wipe his prints off the gun and drops it next to Eddie's hand. Stephen Lane is telling us a story that matches the known physical evidence to an absolute T. That's exactly what we expected that did happen, and now we have an eyewitness to it that is what happened.
I ran home as fast as I could.
All right, Stephen, I appreciate you telling me the truth. Thank you.
After hearing Stephen's story, Kenda feels confident charging both Cameron and Fitz in the deadly altercation.
Cameron was only charged with third-degree assault because he beat up Eddie. And he also agreed to testify against his friend Fitz. And eventually, because he did cooperate, those charges against him were dropped.
Fitz was subsequently charged with second-degree murder. Through plea negotiation, that was reduced down to reckless manslaughter, which he pled guilty to. He was subsequently sentenced to 6 years for that charge.
Unfortunately, the police have no opinion about the level of justice. That's not our business. We're not in the punishment business. We're in the who, what, where, when, and how business. We're only interested in why if it leads us to who. Society determines if they're satisfied with punishment, not the police. It's not my job. This particular case is an illustration of what it's like when young people who affiliate with street gangs encounter each other and there is a history of violence between them. Two ships passing in the night that recognize each other and make a turn. And that's when gunfire can happen.